Hey folks, welcome to the Scubapro Mark 7 rebuild series I'm doing. We're going to go over some important parts and pieces here on the regulator body itself. As you can see here, we have the oscillator access cover, which is where the honker lives, your first stage regulator access cover, and a high pressure port. Here we have the 2 to 3, depending on variant, ambient pressure ports to equalize your pressure during the dive. And finally, we have the audio port for your primary second stage, the oscillator stem cover, and your low pressure port with various other accessories. Now, this sticker is what should be on the regulator when it's new. This is verbatim. It's got important information on it. If you're confused, just go ahead and stop the video and read the information. This is what should be on your regulator body. Hey folks, there's been some requests for me to do a series of videos on rebuilding the Scubapro Mark 7, affectionately referred to as the Honker. This one here is a 1980 to 1987 variant. As you can see, it's pretty well complete. It's even got the Scubapro low pressure splitter for accessories. I would say this one's probably from around 1982. As you can see, it's a 3,000 psi heavy yoke. But it still has the old key to lock down the yoke onto the tank, which the Scubapro started getting away from, I want to say, about 1985. I've never had any problems with any one of the Mark 7s, including the earliest ones from 1971. They're all mechanically about the same. Now here we got another one. This is about 1980 to 1987. Again, I would say this one's about the same year, about 1982. And still has the key, but this is a spec, an environmentally sealed version, and it only has 2 ambient pressure ports right there on the first stage area of the body. But mechanically, they're all the same, and of course, all the stickers get eaten off. That's why I put the sticker warning at the beginning of the video. But as you can see, that it's environmentally sealed. We're not going to be rebuilding this one today. But nice shape, and we'll get around to this one later on. This is the one we're going to be working on today. This is the 1978 to 1980 variant, and if you look here, you'll see the 1980 and forward has a much thicker upper portion of reg, still 3,000, but the 1978 1980, I'm going to get my camera over here, is also rated for 3,000 psi. It's just not quite as beefy. I call it the medium density yoke, but it's still marked for 3,000 psi. Just a little bit thicker material, mechanically identical. It has 3 ambient pressure ports, and of course the heavier body. Now here, coming up here, we're going to go ahead and have a picture of the earliest one, the 1971 version. You can see the difference in thickness right here. Definitely made for tanks 2250 to 2800 psi, but mechanically, again, they're all the same. Now, never had any problems with any one of the Mark 7s. A little bit more involved to rebuild as far as a lot of O-rings and stuff, but they're bomb-proof, and they'll actually reduce some weight on your BCD, or if you're using traditional weight belt stuff. We're going to get on into it. Now there's all the different sides of the port, and we'll start out this side. You have the layer of the honker, which is where the actual oscillator is, and you have a high pressure port area. If I can quit moving around here, there's your high pressure port. Okay. That's where your submersible pressure is. Okay, there's the layer of the honker that is specifically for the oscillator, as we call it. We call it the honker, and then it's all on that one side. There is no ambient holes. And here is the access panel for your first stage portion of the regulator. Easy to tell because the first stage portion has the ambient pressure ports to equalize pressure and deliver air during the dive. Now, everything except the spec will have 3 ambient pressure ports. The spec only has 2, but then again, they are sealed up. So around that yoke bottom, see right there's the spec. It doesn't have that third ambient pressure port, but remember it's an environmentally sealed regulator. I'm not sure if this one's got environmental silicone in it or not, because I haven't cracked it open, but we'll get at it later and see what's going on in there. Now, remember on that side, that's your first stage. That's the actual first stage regulator. And on this side, you have the low pressure port area, and also access into your piston into the first stage. There is your oscillator cap to access the oscillator, which activates the actual honking mechanism, which is the oscillator. That's the oscillator stem panel right there, and we're going to access that as well. And right there, it's your primary second stage regulator hookup, which says audio on it. That's what you need to hook up onto when you use the honker in order to get the honking sound. Your primary second stage regulator will go in there. And of course, as you reduce air use and you get down to about 450 psi, it will start going back and forth, creating the honking telltale sound that we all know and love from the honker. The last of what we would call the talking regulators. 3,000 psi, nice and beefy. And we'll eventually get on into other things here. Okay, we have a Mark 7 rebuild kit from Vintage Double Hose, and it's got all the myriad of O-rings inside it, plus high pressure seat, a new lock-in star for the centered filter, circular centered filter, and it has just everything you possibly need. Now remember, the Mark 7 honker, it takes a lot of O-rings, but once you're done, you're going to say, wow, this regulator really breathes well. Other tools you're going to need. Now I'm lucky enough, I was able to acquire a Scubapro regulator wrench, and it's got the little spanning pins on it so I can pull off my port caps, but you can use a regular pin spanner to get those off. As far as on these parts here, when we're talking about right here, these little pin ports here for the wrench. Now make sure you take off your plug ports, or else you'll never get the wrench down on there. But if you actually have a spanning wrench that can get in there and get to those little ports, that's great too. That'll work. Don't take a screwdriver and try to knock them out, because you put undue torque on the brass. You get yourself a pin spanner or something similar and go ahead and take them off that way. Make sure when you're doing a rebuild that you're going to go ahead and take all these ports and all these caps off as well, and we're going to go ahead and go into that. But okay, a simple pair of pliers. In this case, I've got a multi-tool from Gerber. You need a intermediate pressure gauge. Now then again, I'm lucky. I've got a Peterbilt Scubapro intermediate pressure gauge. So when I take a second stage, and I'll probably use a 190 R190 Scubapro second stage on this, because I've got the tool for it. It makes it dialing it in that much easier. But failing that, you can also purchase something like this and put that on your power inflator or on your Air 2 port. This one's got an Air 2 adapter on it, but it's for power inflators, and you take it off. And you can purchase this pretty much anywhere. They've got those at vintagedoublehose.com as well. Okay, always use a brass O-ring pick to get your O-rings off, in and out. Whenever you're working inside the regulator, use a brass pick. And simple, multi-tool will work here as far as getting port plugs off and all that. Okay, we've got a couple of piston O-ring seating tools here. This one's from a Mark 5, Mark 10 kit, and you have to use this coming in from the reverse. In other words, I call it a reverse bullet. It comes in from the high pressure seat area and goes on up in through the piston shaft to avoid the O-ring. But what you can do is you can make your own bullet. Now, there are bullets available out there online. I just made this one from a chopstick and cut it down to where it fits right in, and there is no hard sharp edges coming from that piston stem to cut out that O-ring. And you'll see what I'm talking about later on in the video. But there are bullets out there. That said, okay, you can also hang on to a chopstick. And I made that bullet tool out of a chopstick, but hang on to that chopstick because that's going to come in handy as a backstop when you get a certain O-ring back in through the piston stem shaft.
Okay, I'm going to take our port plugs off here. Get all those port plugs off. Especially on this one here. Keep your port plugs, don't throw them away. So get your port plugs off. I like to take off the main yoke screw. Okay, yeah, even clean the yoke screw off. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take our spanner pins. And each one of these scuba tools, they have one that's specifically designed for giving spanners. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this outer one. It's probably got a spring behind it, so watch out. So we take those off. Come on. Go after some easier victims here. It'll be tough, eh? Not a problem. Gonna watch it. There we go. And one more time. Just take your time doing it. Don't get impatient. Granted, it's not as easy as it looks. It's sort of a pain in the butt, but there we go. Okay, there's your main high pressure seat. Looking interior there, we've got a couple O-rings in there we're going to take out. So let's get that down. Let's go ahead and take off the Honker access cover. Come on. Rotate around. Thank you. The Honker does not want to come out of its lair. I might be able to get that. Nope, a little bit more. It's in there pretty good. There we go. Did that a little bit of loosen up. All right, got a spring. Okay, and come in Honker plate, and we'll get the Honker out in a second here. And let's go ahead and take off the main first stage to second stage access port. And that one's got some spring tension behind it. Not going to come popping out. Not going to go shooting across the room, but you've got spring tension or it's corroded. We'll find out. Come on. Taking forever. All right. Okay, and there's our interior piston. And we're going to try to get that out. We're going to be very careful when we push these out. Now, always use a plastic rod or something to get that piston out. And you can see that piston wants to come right out. There we go. And there's your spring behind there. We got a lot of O-rings on the inside. But all these parts are going to be cleansed. And go ahead and knock the old honker. That's the actual oscillator right there. And we're going to get that oscillator cleaned up. And we got a few more O-rings in the inside and all that we're going to work out. And if you look down inside there, I'm not sure if you can see it, but you'll be able to see that oscillator stem in there. That's actually where the air is coming in to operate the honker itself.